So I'm Ren, and this is the first edition of RaceTime. It's an online exclusive segment for TVG, and my first guest in the starting gate with me for this debut run is Cherie DeVaux. She is assistant trainer to Chad Brown. First off, thank you so much for your time. How are you doing today?
Oh, thank you. I'm doing very well today.
Well, good to hear it. Now, the obvious first question is, how did you get into horse racing and eventually join Chad Brown's operation?
Well, I grew up in harness racing, actually. My entire family has been involved and is still involved. I have a brother who drives in Saratoga, another one who he and his wife trains, and my father still drives, so still involved with that. I started from the bottom, getting a hot walking job in college, and wanted to be an exercise rider, and this is where it's taken me. I met Chad when I was as an assistant trainer for Chuck Simon at Churchill, and we both were from the area. So I was at Oaklawn when he first started for Chuck, and when I wanted to get a job closer to home, I had taken a position with Chad as an exercise rider.
Very cool.
Originally, which then led into being the full-time assistant at Belmont Park.
Well, it's nice because being an exercise rider, you get to know the horses, how they move, you know them on the ground already, hot walking. Once you're on your back, you know what's common for them in terms of, how they're feeling that day, any lameness, anything going on. So it's good to have it from both perspectives, right?
Correct. I think it's important, or it's an asset actually, to have an overall sense of what's going on, because
right.
I can look at a horse and the way they're galloping and I could think I don't gallop anymore, but how can I give advice to the rider on how better to do something? If a horse is pulling too hard, maybe give some insight as to what would work for me.
Right.
A horse is nervous, how to get them to pacify them. It gives a whole other sense and dimension to doing what I do, than I think somebody that might not have ever sat on a racehorse and has never done it, never breezed a horse,
right.
or, they don't have that experience.
No, absolutely. And talk about success. The Chad Brown barn has had tremendous wins already. Breeders' Cup wins. I mean, you've got Day at the Spa, Stace Lita, Dustita, Bobby's Kitten, Stephanie's Kitten, Big Blue Kitten. You've got Flintshire now, and of course, Lady Eli. And as most know, following her victory in the Belmont Oaks, which extended her undefeated record to 6, she stepped on a nail, left front hoof, and later developed laminitis in both fours. At that point, we're not even worried about her racing career. We're worried about her survival. And miraculously, here we are now, and she ran a sensational second-place finish in the Ballston Spa. What has this journey been like for you and your colleagues?
Talk about an emotional roller coaster. It has been a long journey, and it's had its highs and it's had its lows. So, I can remember every single detail of the first, from when she won the race and walking home, and I was walking with her, to when she walked into the barn and was lame, and just assessing what was going on and finding the nail. I can remember every single moment. Having to make the phone call, because Chad was in Saratoga, when she started to show signs of laminitis, was the hardest thing I've ever had to do as an assistant trainer. And, to go through this day-to-day battle that she had in the beginning of being with her around the clock for the first couple days, and seeing each step. There were setbacks, there were bad days,
right.
And then bad days turning into better days, and then better days turning into good days, to turning into great days. So to have experienced the whole thing has been a story, to say the least. So I can't even put into words some of the things that we've gone through, emotionally, when you're just sitting there on a bucket, just thinking, God, please just let her be okay.
Right.
And then, getting her to where she was stable, and when Dr. Agnew and Dr. Fraley came in and worked with our veterinarians, and then going to the first day when we got to graze her, and everyone knows she's tough, and she's mentally tough. So, like, the first day when I grazed her, she was having a hard time. Our goals, Chad has mentioned we had set goals every week for her. So the first goal was to get her to just graze for 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And the first day she could only last for about 15 minutes before she was getting weak and she was having a hard time. And she would get mad. She would just, she wouldn't want to go in. She wanted to do more. And so, it's been with her the balance of letting her do as much as she can, but not letting her do too much.
Right.
And that had went through to everything, into her training. When she first started off, she was wanting to do more. The videos of her jogging and being rambunctious. She wants to do it. And it's so cool just to watch her and to see her back even just galloping. I remember getting emotional watching her myself gallop because I was at Belmont. And then watching her first breeze, and then when she ran, it was just amazing, And after the race, it all caught up with me anyway. After she crossed the finish line, I was a crying, emotional mess, which I think is understandable for what we'd all been through.
Do you think, obviously, when you've got a horse that has such a strong personality, obviously that helps them get through something like that. Do you think she knew something special had happened after the Boston Spa? Do you think she knew she had made some kind of comeback?
I think for her, I think she was happy to be out there and racing and doing it again, because she had settled down a lot after it. Like finally, they let me go out here and do this.
Right.
I've been wanting to do this for so long. Cause, it's a question. I know it had been a question with her owners and Chad, and the number one thing was for her safety and her well-being, right. And if she wanted to do it, that's always the question. And there was never a question with her if it was the right thing, because she loves to be trained. Yeah. She loves to be out there. She's no happier anywhere than out on that track galloping around or breezing.
It's very exciting to have her back. And earlier on that card, Flintshire defended last year's score in the Sword Dancer in his third start for your barn. He's now made almost $9 million, and this was the 22nd start in a career that has wins in the Grand Prix de Paris, the Hong Kong Vase, runner-up finishes to Trev and to Golden Horn in the Arc, a runner-up finish to Main Sequence in the Breeders' Cup Turf. When did you find out that this Titan of the Turf was joining your stable, and what were your first impressions of him?
Chad had let me know a couple weeks before he shipped in. We were having a mild winter here, and Chad wanted to get him settled in and based in one place, as opposed to coming over, being in quarantine, and then having to ship to Florida for a few weeks, and then having to ship back up north. So he let me know a couple of weeks in advance, and we were obviously all excited. He showed up on, I believe it was Gotham Day, which Shagaf was racing, and he was the coolest horse he's the coolest horse I've ever been around. He sat, he first came in, and for the first week, he just stood at the front of his stall and surveyed what was going on. He would just sit there and, his ears up, eyes wide open, just looking at everything.
Nice.
And then his personality started to show through. He's quite the character. I walked in one morning and he had the groom's box all over the place, brushes, bandages.
Nice.
And just standing there looking yeah, he did that. So he really is, as sensational as he is on the racetrack, he's really cool to be around.
Team Brown surpassed Todd Pletcher's Saratoga meet record, which had been 38, with 40 wins and nearly $5 million in earnings. And Chad also notched a milestone 1,000th victory as a trainer. What in your training program do you think accounts for this skyrocketing success?
It has been a great year for Chad and us. he is one of the hardest working, driven people I have ever met. So obviously that has been one of his driving forces in his success as a trainer. I think as far as training the horses and the way he conducts his business, he is so detail oriented. Every day he wants to go over the horses. He wants to know everything about them. You know, if you don't like something, then you better mention it. If you think a horse is a problem when it's small, mention it, and he will change things accordingly. And I think that has a big role in it, because nothing goes unnoticed. He tries to hire people who think the same way, who value the same thing, and he's hired. Our other assistants are all the same. We're all hardworking. We all want what's best. We all go in there as if they're our own horses, and try to do the best job possible. And the other thing is Chad always is trying to do what's best for the horses and the owners, and he puts that first. He's not going to, if he doesn't think a horse suits to be here and maybe could do better somewhere else, he'll suggest that, if maybe a horse is needing some time, he'll suggest that as well, so I think in doing all of that, he's created a really good base as to what everyone is seeing out on the racetrack.
Right, you're putting yourself in the best position for success.
Correct.
I think it's wonderful, and it's been an exciting year already for you guys, and we're only to fall, so we'll see what more is in store for the Chad Brown team. On a more personal question, obviously your profession demands both mental and physical fortitude. What do you do to unwind?
I am a big gym buff.
Okay.
I bodybuild on the side. Right. So I think it's just important everyone has some sort of outlet. So mine
Absolutely.
Is going and running or lifting, whatever. So no matter what, if we're 14-hour days, I have my gym bag with me and I go straight from the barn right to the gym.
Wow.
And I go there and I will be at the gym for an hour to 2 hours every day. So I think
it's tired already. I mean, so okay, you already have gotten up at around what time again? What's a
4:15.
Okay, 4:15, and I don't know, maybe lugging buckets, hay bales, and then you will go to the gym afterward.
Yeah,
Hey.
It's one thing, I go
right.
there kind of. It's my one time when I'll say I'm going to the gym. This is my time, so I try not. I have my phone on me at all times in case there's an emergency.
Right.
But I try to get people to just let me have that time for myself, just to get my mind clear. Because if you don't, it will overwhelm you. If you just don't have some sort of outlet to get out. And like I said, mine is the gym. Some people it's reading.
Right.
But I just think, especially with the mental demands that anybody really who works on the racetrack goes through, it's really important just to have something for yourself to get away.
Absolutely. And they say working out gets your endorphins going, and I guess it can be very calming for some people.
Yes, for sure. It definitely is. And again, like going to the gym and being there as long as I go, I also have like a gym family.
Oh, okay.
So they're really supportive of like work. And going back to the Lady Eli thing, they all kind of did the journey with me. So after she ran, people who have never watched horse racing in their life were coming up to me and saying, "How did she do?"
Wow.
Or when is she running? So it's really cool because I get to bring people who don't normally know anything about horse racing or follow it, and they have a personal connection with a horse or a story that they've never even would have had I not go in there and talk to them. So it's really a neat thing.
That's wonderful, and they probably can appreciate also. I mean, you're conditioning your body as a human being in the gym. They can probably appreciate that you help condition these athletes at the track.
And it's another thing. I'll talk to people. I need a knee replacement. So
okay. I'm sorry.
When I'm going through, and doing something, it's like another thing that helps you. I can relate to a horse that has a problem, you know, because I know what it feels like to have to get up and have to walk a few steps before I feel comfortable. You know, and I know when I can push myself and when I can't push myself. So it's another like little thing I can relate to being an athlete and, you know, working with athletes who can't really speak for themselves.
So this is going to be the question I'm going to be asking as a close to everybody I interview on RaceTime, and it is this. If you could have any horse in training that's not already in your barn, who would it be?
It's kind of a hard question because I think the obvious ones, they're doing great where they are. You know, I admire Songbird and California Chrome, and they're great, and they're great. The people that are doing are great with what they're doing.
Absolutely, yeah.
So for me, to answer that question, the horse I wish I could have worked around when he wasn't training would be Frankel.
Oh, all right.
It would be, I would just love to see a horse of his caliber just have developed into what he developed into. I would love to have taken the journey alongside of this horse that they already had high hopes for because they wanted to pick their best horse to name after Bobby. And, you know, to watch how they saw something in that horse and how they developed it into what he had been, and now as a stallion what he is. Oh. I think that would have been fantastic to be part of.
Absolutely, and he's off to a tremendous start at stud.
Yeah, he's doing fantastic, just as, you know, just as he was on the racetrack. So
no, yes, absolutely, and that's part of the fun. It sounds to me, not only are you involved with the horses on the professional side, but you're a fan too, and I think it's so important to bring, you know, people to the track to get them to be fans of the horses and what these horses go through. I don't think they can necessarily appreciate all the work that goes into it, and that's why it's nice to hear it from the perspective of somebody who's there day in, day out, getting these horses in the starting gate. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you know, like with social media and being able to spread the word sometimes. I think anyone can go on, you know, my Twitter or my Instagram or my Facebook and know that I'm doing my job because I love the horses. Yeah. It's not for anything other than I love to come in every day and I love to work with the horses. I love to see them do things and, you know, be part of it. So I think it's important, like, when I go through and I put things up, people know. I don't have to go out and say, oh, I love the horses. You can look at a picture of me playing with Lady Eli to know that I can connect with her in a way nobody else can. Or, you know, and I think that that's like kind of an important thing that I can relay to people who just don't necessarily see that. You know, who, you know, if they go in the grandstand, they're not seeing that I'm working all these hours and I still love the horses, whether they win or they finish last. They're still greatly loved by all of us.
Exactly, and you know, I think that goes into the success that you've had. I think horses know when the people around them are happy to be there, and they feed off that.
Correct.
I just gotta say, you know, you've already again had such a successful year. We look forward to seeing what's in store, and thank you again so much for your time, Cherie. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It was fun.
All right, thank you.
Bet anywhere with TVG.